It's the acoustic I love here. It's just the sound of the birds. All you can hear is the wind and the water going past the boat and the sound of the birds. All completely natural sounds. It's beautiful. I left this morning at about 8 o'clock and drove through the traffic. It took me 3 and a bit hours to get down here, and you go and you think, oh man, is it worth it? Is it worth it? It's going to be cold, nights are going to be long, all that's true, but look at this. This is just stunning. Just stunning. I'm reaching against the tide, so I'm kind of working my way along the side of the banks. It's a beautiful, beautiful day, and boy was it worth getting up and packing the car up and driving over here. If you can keep your boat on the water through one winter, you should do it, just to try it. It's beautiful, and you've got it to yourself. Just me and the birds.
There's a whole lot more to the oar than peace and birds. When the wind is blowing hard due north or due south, it can get pretty rough, especially when it's wind against tide. But if the wind and tide are together, then it offers an absolutely wonderful ride. 6 knots, half a Genoa. Can't be bad.
And the Orr is a real yachtsman's river. Fierce tides, the weird back eddies, the 90-degree bends and clear banks that allow the wind to blow make it an exhilarating place, whatever weather the gods are delivering.
And this is Lady Florence, a constant feature of the Orr. Part of the furniture now. She's a lovely looking thing. Wooden hull and superstructure, 50 feet long, 16 wide, one of 1,000 such boats built during the Second World War as jobbing military supply vessels. She's now a restaurant where for £20 a head you can eat a sumptuous lunch or supper while watching the birds. She's a pleasure to look at, and I'm sure a real pleasure to eat on. Never dined on her though myself. For me, eating out is battered sausage from the chippy. Orford is the first settlement you come to after leaving the bar. I always look forward to coming round the corner. You never know what you'll find there.
Now you can see church and state. It's kind of, some parts of the river they come closer together, but they only look as though they're close from a distance. When you get up in amongst the town, you can see that the church is on the higher ground. And although the castle is impressive, it's made out of local stone, which is rubbish, faced with French stone. The church has the best ground and it's the best building. So,
A few too many moorings at Orford in the summer for my liking, but a great spot to visit in the winter. The tide fair rattles round the corner. Sometimes it looks as though it's the mooring buoys that are moving through the water rather than the other way around. They have a functioning fishing fleet, a Union Jack, and a landing craft. Any town with a landing craft has a head start in my book. It's used to take dark-sided transit vans backwards and forwards across to the Ness. Not entirely sure why, but that's what it does. More on the place serviced by the landing craft later.
3 lovely looking motorboats, and you don't often hear me say that. Some people have suggested that I don't like motorboats. That's not true. I don't like fast motorboats. I like motorboats that have a function. After all, I mean, my boat is a motorboat, and it's got a single cylinder diesel engine. I'm an engineer. And I don't actually mind the sound of an engine. I do mind the boats that go fast, because they leave a big wash. They're just environment busting. I'm just going to show you a line of motorboats and tell you what I think of them. The local boats have to have a pretty big bow because the bar gets really messy, so you need something that's going to throw the water away from the front of the boat. And that's what these motorboats have got. Now this one is a lovely old boat. Someone weird owns it. I don't like to see Jolly Roger on any boat. Don't mind it black. Don't mind the tyres along the side. Don't even mind the kind of rear steering wheel, which nobody would ever have had. So, but as long as he's looking after it, he can do what he likes. So you can see this front one is, the blue one, is a fiberglass. And even that, you know, it's a good shape, functional, but still with that big bow. It's got a little kind of cuddy on the front too, by the looks of things, just to make sure that there's to shed even more of that water. The two behind, obviously identical boats. Look at that, it's lovely, isn't it? See, a motorboat, I know, you know, I wouldn't mind hearing that occasionally, but a motorboat, I mean, these are beautiful boats in the water. The planing boats are not beautiful boats. As for you, circus girl, I'd love to know who had you commissioned. It's got that good big bow, well protected. But when she swings round, look at the arse on that. However, circus girl needs a new owner, I'm afraid, if you're going to survive, and I hope you do. Yeah, see, too fast. Suddenly it looks like a bloody Donald Duck. It's a working boat, and I guess it works because, you know, they've got it here.
Orford has obviously been a landing place for millennia. Bronze Age and Roman relics have been dug up in the area, and it's worth leaving the slug on the excellent hard for a walk ashore. Away from the river, the place is about as perfect as a town can be. Great pub, with a piano playing sailors some nights. You can walk down streets that haven't changed much for 300 years, apart from the cars, of course. As a port and a seat of power, it really started to take off after the Norman invasion. The coast hereabouts was controlled by a family of Normans called the Bigods. Great name. Initially Roger, and then his second son Hugh. The first son died in a sailing accident. No life jacket apparently. They operated out of Framlingham Castle, a few miles inland from Orford. The problem was that the Normans, who invaded Britain in 1066, were a bunch of chancers and hardnuts. Once William the Conqueror, who was an uber hardnut, slipped his mortal coil, all hell broke out as power-crazed barons fought for ascendancy. The Bigods were a continual thorn in the side of the Norman kings who followed William. They brought in Flemish mercenaries who offered to fight on their behalf, and formed alliances with the Scots and the French, who've always been trouble as far as us English are concerned. Eventually in 1165 Henry II got cheesed off with the Bigods and their duplicitous ways and built Orford Castle. It was a big 90-foot tall finger to the troublesome Bigod dynasty and essentially closed the Or as a potential invasion backdoor to England. The views from the top are commanding because that's what they're meant to be. You could see anything that moved from up here. Ships, horses, carts, men. Nothing would escape the watchful gaze of the loyalist placement men put here by the king. The Bigods must have hated Orford Castle. It took 10 years to build and was ridiculously expensive. It cost £1,400. Detailed accounts still exist in London. It's a composite of 4 different types of stone. All came in by boat, some all the way from France. The castle is a single massive round tower with 3 square towers attached to it. 21 faces, some curved, some flat. It's an engineering triumph, but in stone. The church nearby is also a cracker. Much of it was built by the Normans too. The message was simple. Yes, we are bastards, but we believe in God. The top of the original church tower fell down in 1830, and it wasn't restored until 1962. Builders, eh? Inside on a sunny day, the light is wonderful. It's now a pretty colourful place, full of interesting things to look at. At one time it would have been even more spectacular, back when it was a Catholic church. But the Puritans, in the form of a bloke called Dowsing, an inspector of churches for Suffolk, came in and whitewashed the place, took down and destroyed 28 superstitious pictures and 11 popish inscriptions in brass.
Amazingly, the font survived the Dowsing destruction.
Along the bottom it has alternate images of a lion and a woodwose, a legendary big hairy man. He came out of the woods carrying a large stick, which he used to brain ferocious beasts, hence the lions, which ranged the East Anglian plains in large numbers at the time. Not. The belief in such creatures went to America with the Puritans, where it combined with local folklore and Bigfoot was born. It just goes to show there's nothing the Americans won't nick off us Brits. Right down to big hairy man legends. The font has an eagle lectern on one face. And the church has a Victorian brass eagle lectern too, vicious looking thing. The eagle is a symbol of St. John the Apostle apparently, because his words soared up into heaven. But it's a threatening bird, the eagle, don't like it. The lovely stained glass window at the end of the church is fairly modern, 1921. St. Edmund, St. Paul, Mary, St. Bartholomew and St. Nicholas. Some of them carry swords. I guess one day stained glass windows will include men carrying Kalashnikovs and possibly suicide packs. Maybe they already do. One more bit of popery is a lovely statue of Noah receiving the dove. Clever bit of bronze work from 1997. It looks lovely from almost every angle, but this one. Now it looks really evil, and it's the angle short people and children see it from. If I were them, I'd put it in a different place. but it's not my church. Having seen how much foo-for-our iconography and imagery has been brought back into the church since the 17th century, it's my guess that old Dowsing, the Puritan inspector, must be pinwheeling in his grave. Orford is a really lovely place, and if you have an ounce of the sailor about you and you could afford a house here, then this little town would offer almost anything a man could want. It's a seafaring place with thousands of stories to tell, and probably more to come. On the bend of a Suffolk estuary that encompasses 3 utterly delightful rivers, all accessible within a single tide. Between the 3 rivers and the ever-changing Suffolk skies, this place could entertain, delight and intrigue a retired sailing man until the very last day he stepped foot in a small boat he could still call his own. That's what I reckon anyway. After Orford, some parts of the Ore are hemmed in by sea walls and it does become a bit of a ditch. A fast-flowing channel, it wobbles east and west a bit, but not much. It flows alongside the mighty Orford Ness. It's a massive shingle spit laid down with gravel that has been brought down the North Sea, some from Scotland, but most of it has fallen out of East Anglia. From Google Earth you can see the lines that have been laid down by epic easterly storms. But imposed on that is the sort of geographical nonsense that can only have been dreamed up by one group of human beings. The propeller heads. Military scientists, the craziest people ever to appear on our planet. The fan arrangement was a radar array called Cobra Mist. It bounced signals off the ionosphere to monitor Russian and Chinese missile tests all the way over here. Bloody amazing, and all done before Google Earth or even Amstrad's. Mind you, you'd have thought it'd been a lot cheaper to get hold of a local Russian or Chinese bloke, filled his pockets with dollars and given him a good pair of binoculars. The other thing they did here was even more interesting. They tested nuclear weapons. Not the radioactive parts, you understand, but the delivery systems. Don't know if you know how a bomb works, but it's a bit like a Kinder Egg. The outside is made of high explosive and it surrounds a core of nuclear material. You set off the eggshell and that forces all the radioactive stuff into a small clump. Its antisocial nature ensures that it goes pop and produces a mushroom cloud. It's a bit embarrassing, as I understand, if a nuclear bomb goes off before you're quite ready. So it was at Orford Ness that they got the casings for the bombs and tried to make them go off prematurely. They heated them up and cooled them down, they put them in centrifuges, they immersed them in boiling water, they also put them on rail tracks in unfeasibly long Nissen huts and smashed them into blocks of concrete. Man, those scientists had a real ball. These buildings are called pagodas. The idea is that should a bomb have gone off accidentally while being shaken, cooked and soaked, then the high explosive would just blow out through the gaps in the side of the building. The locals think it was designed to collapse. Not true. The roof is supposed to stay on. The other odd thing about the place, apart from the visits from the regular dark-sided transit vans on landing craft, is this building. Perfectly preserved. Occasionally visiting Cold War enthusiasts are taken inside and allowed to take pictures of the empty but immaculately maintained premises. Why such a place as the Ness, manned 24 hours a day, ideal for incarcerating people away from public scrutiny accessed by anonymous vehicles on landing craft, should exist on the Suffolk coast is worth speculating about. Look it up in Google and tell me if you come to any serious conclusions, but I know nothing and the web tells me nothing either. The other thing about what went on, or what goes on at Orford Ness, is that we still don't know the details, primarily because the things they learned here will be useful to lots of people around the world attempting to design nuclear bombs, including the Suicide Pact Brigade. Finally, here's one more thing.
MOD. This sewage outfall behind me really bothers me because I just don't like the look of it. I mean, I don't know why it's doing it. I've done some web research. You'll know as much as I do within minutes of going on the web. It was obviously an MOD site. Apparently it's looked after by the National Trust. But why it would be producing that amount of foam, I don't know. They've told the locals that it's natural foam. Now, you know, I've sailed round and up lots of estuaries. I've seen lots of foam. I've never seen foam like that out of that one place owned by Danger. MOD, keep out. I know, you know, you're not supposed to be cynical, but blimey. And if you look, I mean, they've got a lot of pipes coming into the water. I mean, they can, well, they are chucking it out. I mean, it's really chucking out. I mean, that's microbes. Oh, I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing. But what do I know?
The Orr River system has been dismissed as a concrete-lined drain of a river by some visitors, but those comments come mostly from people who sail depth-challenged lozenges and who can't get into the most interesting bits. For my money, the Orr is a whole lot better than that. Just wait until you see what lies around the corner when the Orr becomes the Ald. You guys are in for a real treat.